All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to episode 175 of the Fantasy Timeline. I'll be your host, Drew, at dr_PRA. I practice that about 8 times in front of the mirror before doing this. Uh, Again, with Bill at Super Dupaflex. We're going to have a short-ish show for you today because we've got some things going on as we're in the holiday season here. So we're going to try to pack a lot in as quick as we can with wrapping up the regular season in most of our leagues and looking ahead to some playoff stuff here. But yeah, Bill, how are you doing this week?
Yeah, doing good. Scattered, like you said, holidays are starting to get, real. And it seems like our schedules always get condensed, and then we have playoffs and trade deadlines in some leagues that end next week. And people, I'm being more active for sure and throwing trade random cold offers to people. And so yeah, just staying busy, man. Um, yeah, it's a fun time of year though. I mean, I'm not complaining at all. And how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I know we've been kind of tracking your playoff progress here. So at this point, you've got to have a pretty good sense of some playoff locks. A couple of teams I think we were talking about before we clicked record here that are definitely out. And then roughly how many teams do you have that are still uh, on the fence and possibly in this week, depending on either your results and or some other outcomes?
Yeah, so in my 17 leagues, and this is all dynasty. I have 13 for sure playoffs, two for sure not playoffs. No, three, and then I have one that's kind of um, it's it depends. It's a point top point getter gets in, and I'm the top point getter by like 30 points right now. So
Okay.
um, I should get that one. So I should make 14 to 17. How about you? You paid attention?
So I was just going through and doing a quick audit. Out of 20 dynasty leagues, I think I will have um, 8 or 9 that are for sure in, and I'll have 2 to 3 that are kind of on the fence, depending, I think, more on other outcomes. I've looked at most of them, and I think only 1 or 2 of them have a lot to do or a high risk of me losing this week. But I need to win, and I need another team ahead of me to lose for a couple of them. And then I've got whatever that leaves, probably 7 or 8 that are definitely out at this point. So a couple of Devi leagues that I joined. One is in, one is nowhere close to in. I'm hoping another year will help me out here, and then a couple that are for sure very very close, depending on how things shake out. So
I mean,
um,
those leagues can flip really quickly. It just a good draft or whatever. When you entered the season, like, was this close to your expectation, or like, did you have some that you were just like, of those, let's say 8 that are for sure not making it? Like, how many of those were like, okay, these are in rebuild and that
yeah,
sort of thing?
let's see here. I've got so the trade addicts league that I'm definitely out in. I saw more potential there, and actually the last couple of weeks I've been one of the highest scoring teams, mostly because I drafted both Kincaid and Laporta in the tight end premium.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be too little, too late to get me into the playoffs to try to make something happen there. So that one, I thought I was going to have a better shot, and I didn't. And then, yeah, a couple of the others here, I definitely was not. Josh and I co-manage one of these here, and we're in the Junkies Listener League, and we knew pretty early on. We had Nick Chubb. We had a couple of early injuries, and we realized pretty quickly after the end of last year. I think Tannehill was our QB2 in that league, so we knew pretty quickly that one was going to be out. But yeah, I would say probably maybe half of them. The expectation would have been to not make it, but there were definitely a couple that I thought, based on the roster in August and September, that I'd have a better shot here. And then some of these teams, they just blew some other teams out of the water, and looks very different now. So we were talking before we jumped on here, though, some trades you're trying to get done and some last minute moves. And uh, trying to look here. I think actually in Trade Addicts, because I'm no longer in, I've got I think the top team or the second place team is, they lost Mark Andrews. And like I said, I've got Laporta and Kincaid. And I think I might even have McBride in this league as well. So he's sending me here Mark Andrews and his second, which will be super late, for Sam Laporta. What are your thoughts there?
I feel that's reasonably fair. I'm not doing it. I'm biased, obviously. But like, I mean, points per game, Laporta is higher than Andrews. He's also 6+ years younger. So, I mean, how do you like even, how do you even talk yourself into doing the Andrews side?
I don't know if a first does it for me, knowing that it's probably like the 11th or 12th pick.
Yeah, like I feel really fortunate like that. I paid Marquise Brown and Andrews for Laporta.
Yeah.
And I got Roschon back. That was before there was a little hope for Roschon. Roschon was like really just a throw in at that point.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I paid a first on top.
Yeah.
And I'm totally okay with that. I mean, I kind of had to come to terms with it, but to get 6 years younger is just huge. And a guy that pops this big, like I think there was some stat like through 12 games, like there's only X number of 6 players that have done 60 catches, 600 yards, 6 touchdowns or something. And the other 5 are wide receivers.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, there's no way that's a tight end.
And I don't think he necessarily has this monster like ceiling. Like I don't think his ceiling's any lower than Andrews. You know what I mean? So
no. Yeah, 36
I don't think he's Kelsey ever.
I mean, how much lower is his ceiling than Kelsey, do you think?
Than Kelsey at his peak? I mean, that's kind of what I mean. Like, I don't think he'll ever become like a guy who's outscoring the rest of the position by 8 points or something like that, like Kelsey did. But like, he's going to be one of those top 6 guys. I feel pretty comfortable saying, as long as he's healthy. And even if he's like, I just don't see the point of getting older. For a second round pick.
Yeah. I may look at his team and see if he's got another young wide receiver I like or something like that.
It would have to be like Tank Dell.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I hate to say it, but like, I mean, it would have to be something that high for me to do that, because otherwise it's just not.
Oh, he is old at wide receiver. He's got Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen. So
so nothing.
We're not doing that. And on his taxi, he doesn't have anybody else of note there. He's got Michael Thomas. Yeah, it would be.
I'm probably not even doing the 110. Like,
yeah.
In retrospect, because there's been more information since I made my trade. You know, I made that trade for Andrews like the week of his injury, and now we've seen Laporta do 140 yards on
crazy
9 catches or whatever it was. So,
well, let's pause here for a quick second. Got a couple of questions here. Let's see. Bronson trades Sutton and Kincaid for Pittman. It's a 2 tight end league. My other tight ends are Taysom Hill, Likely Waller, and Logan Thomas. It's redraft PPR. So there's no premium, but tight ends are definitely more important since we have 2 of them that you have to start here.
I want the Kincaid side.
Yeah. I mean, Sutton and Pittman aren't too far apart for me.
That's my thought too. And
if you have Kincaid and you can start Kincaid and whoever's healthy,
like Waller, we don't know if he's coming back. They did say he's practicing, but that doesn't mean they're going to bring him back this year. Logan Thomas is on a bye this week. Who's to say if they end up making a quarterback change, if the things, end up being the same as they were, where they have the high volume. Taysom Hill, he's so hit or miss. I mean, Likely he did okay, 4 catches, 40 yards, but like doesn't look like he's going to be in the middle of, or, the the
Yeah, he's gonna be the
high volume guy or
yeah.
anything. So I think Kincaid's, even though Knox might be coming back, like I feel like Kincaid's just, he's a guy I'm happy plugging in. And like you said, Cortland Sutton's very close or close enough to Pittman.
Yeah, Bronson, I think you keep the Kincaid and Sutton side, and hopefully that works out for you. And hopefully, maybe Taysom Hill. We'll see. Is Derek Carr still in concussion protocol right now?
Yeah,
I mean, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, so I really like Kincaid, Taysom Hill as my two starters in that group. I get the Dawson Knox concern, but I feel like they've seen what they can do with Kincaid, that like Knox is probably going to stick in towards the line a little bit more and block, because you don't get that at all out of Kincaid. So I get the concern, but you got to remember he's a rookie, so he was still learning things when Knox was playing, and I think just him having the freedom, it's he's kind of playing a little looser, and I don't think you put that back in the box now.
No, if you're going to give up that package of those two, I'd want something else back, and I'd try to capitalize on Kincaid's value. So if I'm trying to think of, is there an undervalued tight end that would be?
I mean, do you it feels like Gerald Everett or something like that, who's kind of been getting a more volume since recently. But I don't. Maybe like a Mayer or something, and hope he pops in the next few weeks. But I don't know. There's really not a lot of tight ends I'm super. Dalton Schultz, maybe. Ferguson, yeah. But I definitely need something back, or at a running back or something, if you're content with your tight end room.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think the first response is keep Kincaid and Sutton. Otherwise, kind of rework that deal to get yourself someone else that you can also start with Pittman coming back. I don't think Pittman makes up for both Sutton and even a slightly diminished Kincaid score line. Good question. Can't wait to see what the Bills do coming off the bye this week. We got to win out if we want a chance. So
it's an exciting game. So
big Sunday. Okay, we got another one here. Bronson also got offered DK for JT and Waddle. Somebody's trying to sell high on DK right now, I think. I mean, JT's not scoring you anything for maybe the rest of the season.
Yeah, it might, unless you think you're going to have a long playoff run. It's basically DK for Waddle. I mean, DK has got a rough schedule moving forward, right? Don't they have San Francisco twice?
They just do they not just play San Francisco, or do they have them?
They play Dallas.
Let's see here. Find DK.
I mean, I don't mind moving Waddle.
They've got San Francisco this week, then Philly, Tennessee, and then Pittsburgh for week 17.
So it's not terrible matchups. It's just this week. Yeah, and I mean, Miami kind of has some wonky matchups. So, I mean, the whole thing is you're rolling the dice on JT, and they say 3 to 5 weeks. Well, if last week was week 1, you're going to miss week 14, week 15.
So you're looking at, he could be out through week 17.
Right. And or he could come back week 16 and you're in the semifinals, and that would be big. But do you think he's going to get full volume again, or are they're going to try to work him back in again? Because they do have Zach Moss, who's performing, pretty well. So
it'd be another one I'd still want a piece back.
Yeah, I agree. I think I need something back if you're going to do DK. Just maybe a lesser running back or something, just something to help your depth. Ty Chandler, something just, I mean, something that could fall into something, Tyjae Spears, something like that.
Yeah, I think Spears would be a great option. So, if you can get another running back, that would feel a little better as well. hopefully you get something worked out. Sounds like you got some good options. It's I'm guessing, is it a trade deadline coming up or something that's kind of prompting some of these offers here? So, but good luck to you, Bronson. Hopefully you find something that works out. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't have anything else sitting in my inbox at this point. I don't have a whole lot. I'm looking back and seeing if there's anything that I missed for any offers, but yeah, do you have a league this year that you felt was a big surprise, where maybe you were expecting to have to wait to see your team do well, and then it kind of came out of nowhere and overperformed?
I mean, I did a startup that I drafted quite young, and it was one where also I have Kincaid and Laporta, and those guys have really helped me at tight end because I really didn't have an established tight end. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop. Bronson, if you got Aaron Jones, I mean, to me, he's basically like, he hasn't been playing, and they add Kenyon Drake today, so it kind of makes me think like maybe Aaron Jones is going to get put on the IR or something. I don't know. I didn't look into that, so I can't really speak to it. But you might just check to see kind of what the news is with Aaron Jones and what they're doing with running backs. So it could be they added Drake for a completely different reason, but and maybe I just was asleep dreaming I saw that, and that's not really the case. So be a fact checker. I'm going to look that up, but yeah, it's I mean, but really, I mean, rolling the dice on him versus rolling the dice on Jonathan Taylor, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. I think
if Aaron Jones comes back, he comes back pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I don't hate that.
Yeah, maybe that is the way to go. Yeah, Packers did sign Kenyon Drake to the practice squad. What were we talking about before that?
Your startup that you drafted young that feels like it's maybe outperforming a little bit.
And I kind of like I went pretty young overall, with the exception of like I added Justin Jefferson, in the startup, but I kind of went a little later on quarterbacks. Ended up with like Goff and Jordan Love, Desmond Ridder, and Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
And so I was perfectly fine there. And then I had draft picks involved, and I got Anthony Richardson.
Oh, wow.
So like all of a sudden I'm like, okay. And then actually funny that this happened, but I just lost Tank Dell in that league, and I'm kind of figuring out like maybe what can I do to add to my team this year to help me out. So I made an offer to a team who's not making the playoffs of Anthony Richardson and Tank Dell for Jalen Hurts, and they accepted it. So
wow.
So now I have Jalen Hurts, Love, and Goff as my top three.
I like that.
Plus Ridder and Baker. So
yeah.
I probably had too many wide receiver or quarterbacks at this time, but better to have more than not enough. And I don't know. I think that was a good trade. The guy was real happy to get Anthony Richardson, and he's getting a top rookie wide receiver. I feel pretty good about my wide receivers, as I just made the trade for Deontay we were talking about. So that adds to my depth for this year. And yeah, I mean, I would say that's the league that I just kind of fell into. Like I'm like in fourth place, but I feel like my team's as good as any in the league now because all my young guys have kind of been performing. And yeah, it just kind of worked out that way. There's other leagues where I went older and I'm just holding on by the skin of my teeth to make the playoffs. And that's not a great feeling, Like,
no.
Older team. I actually kind of threw the towel in. I traded away Kelsey and Derrick Henry a week or two ago, and I'm just like, let's get a little younger. Let's get some younger assets, and and see if we can still do something in the playoffs. But I don't want to go into the offseason with Kelsey, Henry, Cooper Kupp. Like that's just not a fun team to have in the offseason. So
not unless you're Rocky. I don't know how he does that. He lives that life a lot.
Yeah, it's great probably because you can get all these players cheaper. And like I'd rather be acquiring those players in the offseason, and I'm fine having them on my team. But I don't want to have those players on my team losing value. I bet you I can get Kelsey for less than what I got him for,
yep.
than what I got for him a few weeks ago. So, it's just not you don't want to be entering those seasons. I mean, if you can get Stafford, that'd be amazing. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would try for it, but like, sorry, for a podcast, the question was, what if I got Aaron Jones or Zeke or Stafford with DK? It's a 2 QB league. Purdy and then T-Law, who just got hurt. So, yeah, I would ask for that, but I would have a hard time believing somebody's going to accept that. It's worth the ask.
For 2 QB league, that's fun. 2 QB, 2 tight end. So
hell yeah, it makes it hard to pick and choose what you're gonna draft. So I like that.
Yeah, very cool. Sounds like a fun league. Hopefully you do well there, Bronson. I'm trying to think here if there's anybody else that I've got that I'm trying to move. It's funny because I'm looking at, speaking of a team that kind of surprised a little bit, we're both in Superflex Army too. And, for those of you who've been listening along the season, you've probably heard us talking about some of the trades that I've made to try to make myself into more of a contender here and make a push this year. And early on, I was concerned about my running back room because I had I had Bijan, and I had Brees, and I think that was about it. I didn't have a whole lot of depth, but I had, I think Brian Robinson was there. I had Kyron Williams, and I had Chuba Hubbard. And I remember if you go back and listen, maybe 10 episodes ago, somebody much smarter, much wiser than I am, recommended maybe I sit tight for a little bit and see what happens with some of these guys that are a play away from some opportunity. And definitely looking back, I wish I had maybe taken some more of that advice for a couple of the trades that I did. And trading Achane away early to get Swift back was, in hindsight, not as helpful as maybe I was hoping it was going to be. But this is one that I did a dispersal with you, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And it was a slow burn. And I think I got impatient this summer, finally saying, I got to try to make something happen here. So quarterbacks have been rough because I traded Kyler away when he was injured to get Kirk Cousins and some other pieces back. And then, of course, that didn't pan out with Cousins getting hurt. So I ended up having to settle with Baker. But this is one that'll be interesting to see kind of how it goes for the playoffs here, because I think I'm in 5th place based on record. Had a fair amount of points scored against, but got a couple of teams here that are ahead of me in points. Sonny, we've been watching him climb up the board, which is wild. So I hope I don't draw him week 1 of playoffs. Looks like you'll get a bye here because you're still undefeated in this one. And then let's see here. Trade Act is in a strong spot. Yake and Bake's in a pretty good spot. So playoffs, I think, are going to be pretty competitive for the first week, and then you all kind of figure out who you draw in round 2. So I'm secretly hoping that you get Sonny in round 2. I don't know how seeding.
I think they get reseeded, so
do
I
they get
won't be
reseeded?
playing. Well, yeah, but he'd be the bottom seed, so I might get him. But I don't recall if that league reseeds or not. But yeah, but two of the higher seeds actually only have one quarterback at the moment, so they're kind of entering, at least at this point, a little weakened. So.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty wide open playoffs, and I think I will play Sonny if he wins the first round.
Well,
so
I hope that means I don't play him first round then.
We got to figure out how this works. So
Yeah.
this is, Anyway,
Speaking-
yeah, it's a
Yes.
fun league. It's I've just everything's kind of gone right for me, and but I did just lose Tank Dell, and I did send an offer of Tank Dell for Achan, and that
Or did you?
it got declined for with
Wow.
no counter.
Okay.
But I had looked at previous like trade, like the sleeper trade transactions
Yeah.
or whatever, and there was a lot of 1-for-1 trades for those two players just in the last few days. So I thought I would give it a go just to see if I could add some points for this year. But
Yeah.
apparently he wants to make me pay if I add Achan to my team.
I suppose. I mean, he could also go back and look at what he had to give up to get Achan, and it wasn't it wasn't terrible. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would be man, if I was offered that, if I had Achan on a non-contending team and I could get a Tank Dell back.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty fair offer. Like, I'm not gonna sometimes I'm willing to overpay. Like he likes to charge me more, like the contender tax.
Yeah.
This is John Bauer from
As he should
Dynasty
right
Theory. So super good dude. But very rarely do I ever get a smash accept from him. So, because he knows I'll pay if it's somebody I really want. But
Yeah.
I didn't that was my max. I just went and gave him my top offer that time. If he took it, great. I wouldn't feel great about it. Jason said declined with no counter would be a good team name. Yeah, that actually would be.
Maybe we'll tuck that in our back pocket here, Bill, if we do a startup this year.
Yeah, that will be our team name. Let's just
and then
commit
that'll be our MO.
Yeah. We'll just send out really bad offers all the time.
And then we'll also decline with no counter.
Yeah.
We can have one decline with no counter and decline with no comment.
Oh yeah. That's even better.
See what happens here. That's fun. I love that.
So yeah, it's gonna be a fun league. I really hope this is like my one. I've only gone undefeated through a whole season and the playoffs one time. So
one more than Bill Belichick.
That's my hope to try to maybe do that here, but I don't see it happening. There's just so much variance when you get to the playoffs that it's really, really hard to do. And my team's not that dominant. So I mean, Herbert and Geno or Jordan Love are my 3 quarterbacks. So it's not like world beaters.
It is 14 teams. So the likelihood that you got Jordan Love. Yeah. Herbert, Love, Geno, Stafford. You can play some matchups. What's going on with Herbert lately?
Last week was just that was a weird weather game, and I think the week before they played the Ravens, so it's that's a real tough defense. So before that, he was like a top 3 quarterback points per game. So I'm not too worried about it, but got to keep an eye on it, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's just a guy that I always have to start regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun. So I think I'm looking at the Superflex Army 2 again, the standings here. Open C, play on words there from our buddy Steve. First couple years, he also really kind of slow played things. And I'd be curious to get his opinion if he was trying to make an attempt this year to compete some more, or if he just happened to be unlucky with his efforts where he had some guys pop that he wasn't expecting to that put him in middle of the pack. But this is a change from the last couple of years as well to see him
up
here.
My dog thinks so.
He's got 2 no running backs. So I think he was probably trying to stay as low as possible.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson. So there's a lot of players on his team that were he just happens to have Kittle, which helped him out a lot.
McBride popped.
Yeah. So he is probably just in rebuild, and things just kind of happened. So
Jacoby,
Zach Moss. So I would quick read is he was still in rebuild and just kind of letting the team evolve a little bit. So
yeah,
I think next year I'll have a pretty solid team.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Um,
How about
Anything unique in playoff settings for you that you've gotten leagues that you enjoy, or anything that you're looking at evolving with playoffs?
I mean, I kind of like how they do like the top two scores advance. Each of the two rounds before the championship. Like I find that to be um, interesting. I do understand the argument to not do that, like because if you're the one seed and you're playing the lowest seed, you have a better chance of that team scoring less. But with so many leagues now, including the top point scorer, playing the lowest seed isn't necessarily an advantage
Right.
anymore. So it's like, why not just let the two best teams advance and where they're not facing an individual team. Um, it kind of has at least crossed my mind to maybe suggest, or if I started any new leagues, maybe have that be the case. Other than that, I mean, I'm pretty traditional though. Like, I mean, I enjoy the way it's set up, and I mean, I'm fine with the reseeding after the wild card
Yeah, each
round,
round.
um, so that the top seed gets the advantage of playing the lowest seed. Um, but not too much. How about yourself?
I think we've got one league. I think it's one that Rocky commissions where the top two or three seeds get to choose their opponents the first week, which is an interesting twist as well. Which, of course,
I don't want to do that.
can
Like,
backfire either
yeah,
way.
totally.
um, yeah, for those of you who are old enough to watch, the league when it was on FX back in the day, and getting to choose each other's opponents and stuff. So some of that gamesmanship and kind of tempting fate, or seeing how superstitious you really are, that's always kind of a fun part of this too. So I don't mind having one or two of those. And if your team gets picked, then it's a great way to go in and be a spoiler and say screw
Yeah,
you if you can
yeah,
pull that off. And especially if your league doesn't have a trade deadline, you can get loaded for bear if depending on how spiteful you want to be, if you want to hamstring yourself next year or two. Some fun options there.
yeah. Like Jason, one thing about the playoffs that's unique for me is making them. That's funny.
Yeah, you and I are probably closer in that sense this year than you and Bill are. That's what I'm really hoping, is I'm going to ride Bill's coattails in the next couple of years as we do a startup or two here. And
oh, geez. Yeah, that's the pressure. You just never know, like, because you have these. You have two people that have different ways of building, and it may end up being a beautiful marriage, or it might just be destruction. And no way to know until it happens. And
yeah, there's no cohabitating and co-managing.
like me and Josh, like our team. I mean, I like our team, but it just hasn't done well. And then but me and Sonny, we play very differently, but our team's been quasi dominant in Superflex Army. So
yeah,
it's hard to say. Like, it just, yeah, we've just done a really good job kind of working with each other on those. I feel like maybe Josh and I are a little less active than Sonny and I have been. So, but
yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what we can find out.
I'm looking forward to it. That's going to probably be the only leagues I start. So,
same.
So it gives us something to look forward to into the off season. We'll have to figure out when the best time is. Because that's different too, right? Like,
yep.
But well, why don't we talk about that? Like, let's talk about like league selection and that sort of thing. Like, do you prefer, or you've taken over orphans?
Yep.
Does like the league, like, do you take that into account when you join one, or is it kind of like, oh, I just want to pick up a team and this looks like a decent
no, I definitely,
team?
I recently, anyways, the last few orphans that I've picked up, it's definitely been because I want to be in that league with some people. So Initially, like during 2020, the pandemic, when I was just looking for stuff to do, I was looking at rosters and saying, okay, you got 3, 4 players I like, so I'll kind of hang out to these. Then I've got some other players I think I could probably churn and, turn this thing around. So that was more about the roster than the league. And I'm still in one of those leagues, but we'll probably drop out of it this year to make room for whatever we do. But yeah, in the last year or two, anything that I've added on additionally has been mostly for who's in it, and then a couple for the league format, but mostly who's in it and what the league itself looks like too for the structure. So settings definitely matter for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Like, I mean, I don't really take orphans on anymore. Like, I took on one because it was the format. It was a 16 teamer, and I hadn't been in a 16 teamer yet, and so I'm happy to get into that. And there was but I made sure that there was some decent players available for me to add in the dispersal. So
yeah,
I didn't want to go into something and just know I'm behind the 8 ball to start. And yeah, so like for orphans, that's definitely something that I take into account. Like, how about for like new leagues? Like, I guess format to a point, if there's something wonky that you want to try, I guess that makes sense that you would just pick that just based on the settings. But if you're going to pick like just a kind of the cookie cutter, Superflex Dynasty, it's more about the people, I would imagine, that are in it, or the. I guess if there's like a buy-in or something that you're looking to get into or something at a particular amount. Does that ever really affect you?
I've been relatively low stakes for most of my leagues. I would say
Yeah.
the majority of them are, $50 to $75 at the most. A couple of those is because they're safe leagues, and this is kind of how the pricing structure was. So,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't mind getting into a higher stakes league with some folks that I knew were pretty serious about it and that had decent settings.
Yeah, I have a hard time with like the high stakes and on like the safe leagues or FFPC because they take such a huge chunk out of the out of those fees, where you might only get 70% of the pot being paid out, and it's like, man, like especially if you're going to pay that much money, like let's have that all going back to the league.
Yeah. Or at least let the league say what they're going to do with some of it. If
exactly.
you want to take 25% to charity or something, at least you have some agency in that.
Exactly. So, I tend to agree. I wouldn't mind getting into like a higher dollar one. But I think higher dollar ones, I think I would need to do solo. But yeah, how about the time of year? Do you prefer doing them before the draft? Like let's say you can draft picks before the rookie draft or before the NFL draft. So if you're doing a startup in February or March, do you prefer to do that, or do you prefer to do it in like June after you know who the rookies are and they're in the rookie draft?
Or do you like my sweet spot is probably I either want to have most of the information or almost none of the information. So I would prefer probably even maybe pre-combine, like pretty early after the Super Bowl, like early February, something like that. Pre-combine with picks. Or, I mean, honestly, I would be fine if you just threw the rookies in as well. Like you draft your rookies in the draft without knowing, what their combine results are going to look like, what their landing spots are necessarily going to be. Because I think that I think it cuts both ways, where it can give some people maybe a little bit of the edge, level the playing field quite a bit too, because everybody. So unless you're really working with people in the league that are super in tune with what's going on in college and stuff like that, that's that kind of fun as well. After post NFL draft and landing spots, and it's fine, but I would probably prefer to have the the startup and kind of the fun before. That would also be something I'd be interested in looking at, is, a league that would do the rookie draft before rookies are actually drafted by the NFL too, and just kind of see, how things shake out there.
I do one league like that, and you can really like screw yourself, like if you pick somebody that you think's going first round and they end up going like fourth round, and it's just, I struggled the first year with it, but like last year I did a lot better by kind of following the NFL mock, services where you can kind of see when they do the all the different services and figure out what the average draft is for the mocks, and then picking positions that you felt good about, like maybe you can pick you don't want to take a running back that is being mocked at the end of the second round when they could end up being a fourth round pick, and it's a whole different dynamic. It's interesting. Your draft picks are worth less, because there's a little less known information when you use them. But problem is a lot of teams don't take that into account, and they want full value of a rookie pick when you're trying to trade for them. And so in my experience, trading for later picks is actually more beneficial than getting earlier picks. Because if you're drafting 5 guys in the third round of a rookie draft, you might hit 1 or 2 that get drafted way earlier in the NFL draft. And so it's just one of those things where accumulate late and don't
overpay for the early stuff.
Exactly. But yeah, that's a fun format. I tend to agree. I think I prefer to draft early. I think that's when I usually do my best, with the rookie picks in the startup, and before people are starting to overvalue the rookie picks. Usually when I do my best is getting a couple first rounders in the startup, and a handful of seconds, and just going young and building that way. That's typically always the time when I have my teams end up more dominant. So, or doing it if you could do it in like late July, early August, that's interesting too, because you have a lot more information. But you also have to kind of wade through all the puff pieces by the beat writers, because every team's beat writer writes these glowing reports about the rookies, and all they're doing is reporting what the coach's staff says, and all the coaching staff is saying stuff to like help the player gain confidence.
Wow.
I don't know if I trust Jason. He says smart, follow Bill. He's a FF prophet. No idea what that's in reference to, but I don't trust that.
He's also in a dynasty league that has contract, salary caps, restricted free agents, unrestricted free agents, franchise tags, transition tags, and all these other things, which I guess if you're really trying to get into a full-on general manager experience. So I don't know that I've ever really considered something like that. Is that similar to like one of those kitchen sink leagues or something that Ryan McDowell does?
That's pretty close. Yeah. But the difference is like in those you have like bid dollars that kind of keep the money just keeps rolling over if you don't use it. And but this is more just like a contract league basically. That's fun. If I was in less leagues, that would be something that would be more intriguing to me. I did do a few leagues, or I did one league like that with 32 teams in it, and IDP, all that stuff. And it was just like, after a couple of years, I'm like, I am spending way too much time on this one league versus all of my others. So I ended up bouncing from it. But actually, the league folded. I think everybody was just overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
If you have the time to do it and pay attention, because I like to be pretty thorough when I do my, if I feel like I'm not putting the ample amount of time in a league, I don't know. Then I ask myself, why am I in it? And that's kind of where I got in that kind of league, just because all my other ones. But yeah, that would be something. If I had 5 leagues, that would be a great league to be in, I think.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll put something out on the interwebs. You and I can kind of talk through what some of our non-negotiables are as far as the type of league we're looking for, and I think I would imagine you and I are both probably in a place where we are not wanting to commish anything at this point, right?
Yeah. I mean, I commission 8 leagues at this point, and
Yeah.
it's like I'm trying to lower that without any success. So yeah, I think I don't want to commission. That's why we're gonna talk to John Bauer about running one. Yeah, that's probably where we'll end up doing the league, to be honest, just because he commissions and we just gotta play the league. So
Yeah, I'm up for that. So yeah, I think we talked a little bit the last couple of weeks. Like a 14 team super flex. Ideally start 11 or so.
yeah, high enough tight end premium.
Yeah,
1.75 or 2.0. Oh wow, Jason's
That's
league with
amazing.
all that is 20 years old and was a redraft way back in the day. That's awesome that it's evolved like that. Yeah, I have one league that is 30 years this year. Started at my freshman. God damn, I'm old. Started my freshman year of college, and so 1993, and so yeah, same people, same format. We're still standard.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, I did remove the kicker and defense though when we moved over to a different site, and I'm like, fuck this, that's out of here. But
That's awesome. Okay, well, yeah, let's figure things out here. For those of you who maybe are just listening for the first time, I'm going to guess that I think next week is about the cleanest point that we can kind of make a wrap to this season, because Friday the 15th at 11:30, I will be on a jet plane. Got my tickets confirmed on Monday for me and the family to head to Korea. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, we're excited. We're getting all these other logistics figured out now, but it's been awesome to go through the season week by week this year. I'm glad it worked out for us to be able to do this. So we'll do one more week next week after week 14, which should wrap the regular season. We'll kind of get some thoughts on playoffs, and feel free if you have any questions, throw them our way. We'd love to have some stuff to talk about, or join us for kind of the wrap up there. I would like to think I'd be able to maybe do one more, like wrap the entire season once we get settled in after a couple weeks. So
yeah, like during the holidays, kind of.
Yeah,
maybe when we have some free time and we can just pick a random time when you and I, because I'm definitely closed. I'm closing my business for a week, but
nice.
I'm really pushing it to be closed for 2 weeks. So I think I might be closed from the 20th through after New Year's. So like we might have some time to be able to do it at whatever time works best for you.
Okay.
So why don't we commit to maybe doing it one time, as long as things have settled a bit for you.
Yeah.
And then the off season, we're really not sure, what's going to happen, but maybe we fall into a rhythm where we can do it every so often. And, it just like last off season, we really didn't do anything. But who's to say if next week's our last show ever, or we
I'd like
keep
to think
doing
we have
it.
one more. I'd like to think we have at least one more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you that are in any leagues with Bill, help him win 14 of those 17 leagues so we can stay shut down for 2 weeks.
That's not why I would be shutting down or wouldn't be shutting down. I don't play in big enough stakes for it to matter for me. Even if I win all of them, I would be just like, but because most of my leagues are $25 to $75.
Just roll it into the next couple seasons. You're playing for free.
That's exactly
money. So, but yeah. So thanks for everybody that hung out with us today. It's cool to see everybody in the chat here. So yeah, midday I guess is a decent time. So we'll continue looking ahead at that. but I will give you fair warning. Next week will potentially have to be later on because next Wednesday is actually the day that my shipping container gets filled, and depending on how long it takes them, I've got to be supervising them all day.
So it's either going to be early like this, early for us like this, or it's going to be like 10:30 p.m. Eastern or something like that. So, but we'll make sure it gets done at some point.
It will. But I know we've got to get going here, Bill. So it's good to hear a little bit where you are. Good luck on your one team that's questionable.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not even sure what I'm rooting for in that, to be honest.
But look forward to seeing next week, kind of wrapping the entire season, and maybe we'll give kind of some season-long thoughts here as well for the regular season that wraps up. But again, thanks for listening. If you hung out with us for a little bit, this is a quick one, and we will plan to see you next week. And for now, we are out of here.
Late.